Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Arsenal news show, our Raw Reaction series every single morning, 8 a.m. UK time, as many days in the week as we can possibly fill. And we're filling pretty much all of them as we reach episode 30 of the news show, which of course carried on from our coverage over the summer of the Arsenal transfer show. But thank you ever so much for tuning in. Thank you ever so much for joining us, as always, in the chat box. We've got George MFB, Colin, this being has no name, Stephen Bungle, Saeed Wilson, Tom, Stephen Bungle. Again, I've highlighted two people that we've already said. It's going to be one of those days, I can see. Wrath of Aries, thank you so much, all of you guys, for tuning in, some of the regulars and some irregulars as well. Thank you so much, guys. Make sure you, if you haven't already, to drop a like on today's video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And of course, if you also haven't done so already, please do go over and subscribe to the Arsenal Way. Some really exciting stuff coming over the next couple of days. We got the Football Fun Day Part 2 coming out today. Myself and Bailey just showing you basically how bad I am at football in some football challenges. That'll be coming out a little bit later today, and then some really interesting interviews over the next couple of days as well. But yesterday on the channel, we did, with myself and David Hughes, Reach's analyst and scouting writer, did go through Arsenal's 0-0 draw with Brighton, and we broke it down into kind of the different tactical side of the game. So if you're into that and you like the tactical side of the game, looking at stats, looking at where Arsenal need to improve, why they didn't necessarily win, what were the issues, then please do go over to the Arsenal Way, link is in the description, and have a watch of that and subscribe to it if you haven't, of course, already. But we kick off today with news regarding following Balogun, the young 20-year-old striker, of course, has been nominated for the Player of the Month award for September in the Premier League 2 division, which is where obviously all of the under-23s teams play. He's had an excellent September and pushed Arsenal towards their title-challenging start to the campaign. But he could be on his way out of the club. Not permanently, you'll be glad to know, but he will be off to play elsewhere on loan. The suggestions are that Mikel Arteta is considering sending Balogun on loan for the second half of the season to get in some integral senior experience that at the moment, you have to say, he is just not getting at Arsenal at this current time. And so therefore it makes complete sense that we would send him out on loan. He's been obviously a striker that we know that he's got these qualities. We know that he's very much highly rated. We know that he can be a lot better than he's being able to show, because he's just not getting those opportunities at Arsenal at the moment, which is ultimately not his fault. He's got Aubameyang and Lacazette ahead of him. It's always going to be difficult. But Balogun looks like he could be leaving on loan in January. Now, Dusan Vlahovic, the Serbian striker for Fiorentina, scored a hatful of goals last season in Serie A and has continued along that form this season as well. 21 years of age, very highly rated. He is being coveted by plenty of clubs across Europe, and Arsenal have been previously credited with interest in the striker. He has turned down the final contract offer from Fiorentina, meaning that his deal will run out in 2023, meaning that at the end of the season, he will have just 1 year left on his contract, meaning that he could be available for a cut price deal, but there will be plenty of competition to bring in the forwards. Arsenal and Tottenham have been credited in England, Juventus, Roma, Inter Milan have been credited with interest over in Italy. It will not be an easy one to acquire if Arsenal indeed do go for Vlahovic. In yesterday's show, we brought to you news that Arsenal have drawn up a list of striker targets that include the likes of Ollie Watkins, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Yusuf En-Nesyri, and one other striker whose name has completely escaped me. Jonathan David from Lille was the other player as well. So it is going to get hectic with striker chases, considering the fact that last summer we all looked at the striker market and went, there's not actually loads out there that you would go for. There are loads of names that are coming to the fore ahead of summer 2022. And it's only October, only the start of October, in fact, at the moment. Crazy times ahead, that's for sure. And we're bringing you back the Arsenal transfer show as soon as the January window approaches. Another striker on the list, you can make this number 6, is Kareem Adeyemi. The Red Bull Salzburg and German international has also now been credited with interesting Arsenal. It's almost like if he's a striker, if he plays somewhere in Europe, if he scores a few goals, you're going to see a link to Arsenal, and that appears to be the case as we run up to the next transfer window. You do need to take all of these links, as I say, with a relatively large pinch of salt, because as Arsenal want a striker, it's very easy to see these links crop up to these different forwards. But Adeyemi is someone that I know very well from my own personal following of Red Bull Salzburg. He's someone that's come in and filled the gap left by Patson Daka. Sekou Koita is still there, but his ban that he suffered means that Adeyemi is very much taken to the fore. Megan Berisha also left in the summer for Fenerbahce, so he's had to come forward and really fill that spot, and he's doing it excellently. Very quick, very adept on the ball, very technically good, left-footed finisher, really nice player, still very young, lots of development still to go. Would I take him? I'm not sure about the age profile. I still very much think that Arsenal should be looking at a striker in the mid-20s range of kind of ages of player to really allow Balogun that route through to the first team and not block that path. But if a player's good enough, sometimes that's enough to convince people that they should be being brought in to the team. I, in fact, have an article going out this morning about kind of the justification around going for a mid-20 striker and why a certain Sevilla forward may be the right choice for Arsenal next summer. Now, a player that I didn't expect to be talking about too much in 2021 was Christian Bielik, the former Arsenal midfielder, of course, is someone that we all know very well from his time at the club, spending time on loan with Charlton, and then was sold to Derby. Was brought in many years ago. I think it was it from, it was either Lech Poznan or Legia Warsaw. I think it was one of those two, or maybe even wasn't, but I can't think that far back. But he was brought in from Poland, and he has, unfortunately, is now in a situation at Derby where Derby, as we know, have gone into administration, and they owe a lot of money. The figures are in excess of, I think, around £8 million that they still owe to Arsenal from this deal. And Arsenal have deferred a payment to help Derby basically get through this period, because they would have been expected to pay, I think, something like £1.4 million. And Arsenal have decided to defer it to help Derby during this really difficult period for them. Make it out what you will. I always try to see the positivity and humanity, and I think that's a really good move by the club to try and help out Derby during this difficult time, because they are a very big club that don't deserve, and their fans don't particularly deserve to be where they are and in the situation that they're in. It's been poorly run, poorly managed, and they shouldn't be in this position. So Arsenal won't be getting any money from the Bielik deal anytime soon, but it is in order to help out Derby, who are in financial difficulty at the moment. Looking then at the biggest and headline news of the day, revolving around William Saliba, the French youth international, currently on loan from Arsenal at Marseille, having a brilliant time. Only one game, you would say, he's really kind of had a little bit of a wobble, which was the previous weekend, the weekend before last, ahead of the Europa League fixture against Galatasaray. That was where he had a bit of a wobble against Lens, I believe, or Lens. And his future up until now, or rather up until yesterday afternoon, was still very much up in the air. A lot of Arsenal fans were concerned about the future of Saliba. Was he going to be playing for Arsenal? Did he have a future? And the transfer guru himself, Fabrizio Romano, has come out and said that Saliba's future is still very much at Arsenal. They've been in contact with him. They spoke with him a couple of weeks ago, gave him assurances that they trust him 100%. His future is still at Arsenal. But the issue for Arsenal is that with 3 years away from the club, spending time on loan at Saint-Etienne, 6 months at Arsenal in the under-23s before a 6-month loan at Nice, and now a year loan at Marseille, it does leave the situation contractually a little bit delicate, and that they now need to make sure that they sort something out. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves in a situation where he could leave for free very soon, and we need to tie him down. So that's something that the club will need to focus on. They'll need to give him assurances that he's going to get plenty of opportunities in the first team next season. But with Gabriel and Ben White very much integrated, it could take a couple of tweaks. It could take going to a back three. It could take something even more different than that to consider Arsenal as an open path for Saliba. But that is really good news, and that we've kind of had a little bit of the stress relieved from the Saliba situation, that he has been assured that his future is very much at Arsenal, that the club trust him 100%, and they want to see him back, and that he was sent on loan to make sure that he played week in, week out. And with that, it does indeed conclude the news of the day. The last thing that I need to talk to you guys about was an article that I put up yesterday in response to something that we spoke about a few days ago. Probably a lot of you saw the horrific chant that was going around the Amex Stadium in the Arsenal section, targeting Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV. Disgusting, embarrassing, and really did leave the club in disrepute. And so I wrote a piece about it, specifically kind of reacting to that, condemning the actions of those that did that chant. And when I tweeted it out, the response that I got was neither surprising. It wasn't surprising at all to get some of the responses that I got. The fact that some people didn't even read the article before replying, just seeing an article which looks like it defends AFTV, which it's not about defending AFTV. It's about condemning the actions of those disgusting people that decided to chant something that I'm not going to repeat on the show. If you want to talk more about it, you can go and watch the Arsenal Lounge because we discussed it a bit over there on Monday. But the responses to the tweet were like talking about how can you defend AFTV are an embarrassment, all of this stuff without actually reading the article and finding out what's happened. And that's a real shame. It's not a surprise. It doesn't surprise me that some people have this mindset because it's narrow-minded, blinkered, and frankly lacks perspective. But it's just a case of a real shame that happened. But if you want to go and read the article, it's over on football.london. And educate yourselves on what happened because it was despicable. And we're all Arsenal fans at the end of the day, and we shouldn't be seeing fellow Arsenal fans speaking to others quite like we did see in the Amex last Saturday. Anyway, we are going to now move on to the final part of the show, which is the question, query, theories, and thoughts section of the show, which you can throw in your, as I say, the questions into the chat box, and we will go through as many of them as feasibly possible. So let's get on to that. Shaheen's in the chat. Good to have you in here, bro. Spot on, Tom. It's a really interesting article. Thanks, mate. Really appreciate it. As I said, do go watch the Arsenal Lounge that we recorded on Monday. We discussed some really good topics and covered it really well, I thought. So give it a watch. Let's scroll up and see if there are any questions. Maya says, can we get Tielemans? I read somewhere that he's valued at about £50 million in January and £40 million in the summer. I think from my perspective, if Tielemans is going to leave Leicester, he's going to want to go to somewhere where he can guarantee himself Champions League football. He has Europa League football with Leicester, although he may not do by January. But I think he'll want to take that next step kind of forward in his career. I'm not sure if that's going to be kind of guaranteed at Arsenal. Would I take him? Absolutely. I think he's a fantastic midfielder. It's just I'm not sure that Arsenal will be able to get that deal done and convince him that the project is quite right for him, if that makes any sense. GGTV for you says, this is very big of Arsenal doing that for Derby. Arsenal helping out financially. What universe is this? I think it's it's always good to see the best in humanity as best as we feasibly can. Let's go to, why am I so blurry? Let's stop that. There we go. No, why am I still blurry? Stop this. There we go. My camera's having a mare this morning. I do actually need to think about getting a new one because it's being a bit silly recently. Audriel says, what is going on with my hair? Christ. Audriel, that's why I need to get a haircut because this is stupidly long at the moment. I need to get it sorted. Audrilla says, morning, Uncle Tom. Do you think we need a more defensive or attacking central midfielder? And how and who would you want? I think we need to move for a more defensive styled midfielder as a priority. I think you look at players like we were linked to in the summer, Locatelli, Neves, Bruno Guimaraes, all of these guys, Yves Bissouma, of course. I think that's clearly the priority, clearly what we need to move towards. The problem with those is that they're very expensive and they're also right-footed. And I kind of want to see us move down the route of signing a left-footed central midfielder. I feel like we need it. I feel like it helps our left flank a lot, or just a right-footed player that's really good with their left foot too. But I think we've seen a couple of indications in the games against Brighton, in the games at the start of the season as well, when Xhaka wasn't available, the Burnley and Norwich games in particular, like we did lose a little bit of a kind of threat down the left flank. And so I think that we may need to be looking into someone that can really play out with their left foot on the left-hand side of midfield next to Thomas Partey. But I talk a bit about that in the Arsenal analysis show on the Arsenal Way, so make sure you check that out if you haven't already. Stephen says, where's Stephen's question? There it is. Should we prioritise a centre midfielder and hold up forward? I think those are the two positions that you need to be looking at this coming summer, which is still so very much far away. Whether we do anything in January, I don't know. I doubt it. It will depend on who leaves, but I think it'll be more about outgoings than anything in January. The Red Gorilla says, do you think Laka will go next window and Aubameyang in the summer? I think Aubameyang will be here until the end of his deal, to be honest. I think Lacazette will go at the end of the season. I think Balogun will go out on loan in January. I think that Nketiah will probably leave in January. I think that Kolasinac will go in January. Who else could go in January as well? Maitland-Niles could yet choose to go. Chambers or Holding, maybe frustrated with the lack of minutes, they could go. Cedric could go, lack of minutes, although he said that he's happy at the club. So who knows at this stage? We will wait and see what happens with those guys. I really do not want to grow my hair into a mohawk, Tom. I'm sorry. That's just not happening. I'm getting married next year. That's just not going to happen. GGTV View says the hate at AFTV is everything that's wrong with the fan base in a nutshell. Stan Kroenke is the problem, not AFTV, in my opinion. I mean, it's always, I think the misplaced judgment, I feel that the criticism AFTV gets sometimes. Look, it's far from perfect, and I disagree with a lot of the things that have gone on over there. But if you think that's the main issue at Arsenal, I mean, I'd shake your head a bit because it's I don't know how you can think that's the priority right now. Colin says, Tom, it's just as well that we're all grown up here. Carry on the good work. Thanks, mate. Much appreciated. Scroll up a little bit higher. Well, there's more value in being a moron. Educate, eh? Says Hambo. There's more value in being a moron. It's the I don't even understand your comment, to be honest, Hambo. Please educate me as to what you think that means. John says, thoughts on Sterling, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Saka as a front three. I mean, I think that's got a lot of goals in it and a lot of creativity in it as well, with Martin Odegaard or Smith Rowe playing behind. It's certainly something that I wouldn't turn down. Very English as well. England internationals all across the line. Wes says, how come that we already got Partey's replacement while he is still very much our integral player and didn't go for Xhaka's replacement, although he almost left this summer? I think it's because he didn't leave, Wes. I think Arsenal brought in Lokonga because he was a really good prospect and that was there and available this summer. And if we hadn't have gone for him this summer, he probably would have gone off to the likes of Napoli. So we did want to get that done. Also, Thomas Partey's injury record tells us that he's going to miss a fair few games throughout the season. He's already missed some this year. Lokonga is a good ready-made replacement should he move, should he get injured or be suspended or just not be available for whatever reason. I think Xhaka's kind of staying meant that we didn't go and get someone while we've still got El Neni and Maitland-Niles at the club as well. We need someone, though. I think that's become very much apparent with his absence. So fingers crossed we can see something happen. What kind of centre midfielder do Arsenal need to get this summer, says Alpha. This summer, I still think we need to add that Xhaka replacement. But if you look at the fact that Arteta does like the idea of playing 4-3-3, as soon as one of Odegaard or Smith Rowe is gone, we do kind of lack a bit of depth in that area now Joe Willock's left. It could come in the form of a Patino or a Miguel Aziz or someone else coming through the youth ranks, or like a Salah-Eddin maybe. But I still do feel like we're quite light in that area of the pitch if we were to switch to a 4-3-3 more permanently. So maybe we would have to consider that going forwards. Matt says, Tom, who is your Xhaka replacement? Who is it? I need more time to consider the replacement options because I was so set on the likes of Basuma and Guimaraes and that, but I do want to see some left-footed options. I do want to see tactically what players would suit the left-hand side midfield position because it's a really threatening area of our game. And if we lose that service to Tierney or to whoever is on the left wing, I think it really will restrict us. So I need to do a little bit more research into possible players that can play out onto the left flank. Ozzy Gooner says, hi, Tom, I really enjoy your level-headedness. Thanks, mate. Really appreciate your comment. There's no point losing your head for views. It's just not worth it. I'd rather stay level-headed. And, you know, it's ultimately led to where the channel is today, led to the job that we got today, and we move, as they say. The Premier League chat, Olu says, the best teams use 4-3-3. We should be looking to switch permanently to that 4-3-3 now that Xhaka is out. I do tend to agree. The Zeitgeist, Hambo says, the general intellectual, moral and cultural climate of an era. I mean, very deep, Hambo. I don't know how to take it, to be honest. There is always going to be people that want to watch the world burn, is what I say. John Daly says, are you excited as I am I'm fully behind Arteta, having a hungry, young and talented bunch of players, and the thought of a more coming is exciting. He has a plan. I can see it. He just needs time. Look, excitement. Look, I'm always excited for the next game as an Arsenal fan. I wasn't last season, which probably contradicts what I've just said. But I think with Arteta, there is always these glimpses that we get of something that could work, of like a project that could happen. But the issues I have with Arteta are very much the in-game management, very much the absence of a consistent style. And those two things for me hold me back from getting back on the Arteta train at the moment. The biggest plus for me under Arteta, and specifically Edu, has always been the recruitment. Over the last 2 years, Arsenal's recruitment has improved massively, bringing in Gabriel and Partey and Tomiyasu and Erdegar and Ben White, and bringing in backup players and depth players like Patino, like Lokonga and Tavares. These two young guys coming in to support those two positions is great bits of business. I feel like I'm missing someone. Am I missing Aaron Ramsdale? Of course, and Aaron Ramsdale who's came in. So there is, for me, a lot of hope in that department. It's just Arteta needs to find more consistency. Arteta needs to find more, and that will come with time, yes, but the results will always remain a priority. And fans will not accept us finishing 8th or lower again, and they shouldn't do. And if we don't achieve top 6, in my view, if we get 7th place, you'd say we've moved up a position from last season, but it's still not enough, I don't think. And if you aren't achieving top 6 again, I think you have to look at that and go, I'm not sure that after this amount of time, if you can really say that the amount of time being afforded is being used in the right way. In the market, it is, but on the pitch, that's what I would argue and struggle with right now. So we will see. We'll wait. I'm not going to lose my head now. We'll see. I have my own opinions, but I take every single game by game, and we'll see where we are at the end of the season ultimately. Samuel says, Tom, have you watched Tim Akinola recently? Looked physically so ahead of his fellow academy lads. Salah, Charlie, Mika, these are getting the limelight, but Akinola is doing brilliantly. Samia, I have seen little patches of him play. Obviously, we do the monthly report on the youth team with Kev from Next Generation Arsenal, and he spoke very highly of Akinola. And the good news is that he's probably going to be signing a new deal with the team soon. We'll see how he develops and how he improves. And he's certainly one that I think is maybe going under the radar, as you say, Samia. So very well brought up. Pritesh says, is Alexis still on our radar to sign in January? I doubt it, but let's see. It's one of those funny Arsenal signings that you can see happening. I don't think that it will, though. Jasmine says, Tom, is Salah the best player in the Premier League? And if we had him, are we title challengers? I think anyone with a player of Salah's quality could turn into title challengers, to be honest, Jasmine. Yes, he is the best player in the Premier League, without a shadow of a doubt. The Red Gorilla says, Tom, does Saliba have a recall clause in his contract? No, he doesn't. As far as I'm aware, he does not have a recall clause in his deal. I have had no indication, no information that suggests that he has a recall clause. The only players that I know that do outright are Miguel Aziz. He has a recall clause in his contract with Portsmouth, which I think the club could consider if the amount of minutes he's getting continues, which isn't many. He is injured at the moment, but when he was fit, he wasn't playing. I don't know about Reece Nelson, who is also not playing at all at Feyenoord. So there could be some recall clause scenarios in there. But Saliba, as far as I'm aware, no, there is no recall clause in that deal as far as I know, which you always should take as a pinch of salt. Funga Man says, Tom, would you ever do a show with AFTV if they asked? I think with your help, their transfer show would be much better and more trustworthy. Probably not. Because I'm already very much quite busy with this and my job over at Reach and FL and the Arsenal Way. So no, because of time, travel, and yeah, so probably not, I'm afraid. Logistically, it just wouldn't work out. And I don't think, no. And I don't think I would even if I did have the time. I would happily speak to Robbie on this channel. In fact, I've previously reached out to him to no response, unsurprisingly. But I don't think I would. And maybe that's something that would change if I had a one-to-one conversation with Robbie. Maybe I would change my view. But I can't get on board with some of the things that have happened on the channel and some of the controversies that have happened with the channel, I think that would stop me from doing that. And yeah, but as I say, nothing's ever personal. It's just civil, and that's as it is. That's why I get really frustrated. What was I going to say? That's why I get frustrated with the response when people can't have a balanced view. People can't look at it in the sense of the chant that we saw at Brighton and what we heard being said, and separate that from the opinions of some fans that do appear on the channel. Like, at the end of the day, what people say on the channel, it's Robbie's channel, right? If people say certain things on the channel that are controversial or abusive, that should be stamped out. Then more should be done to stop that. But I look more at the person saying it as the priority. But then I look to AFTV and go, are you not doing enough to stop that kind of behaviour? Like the thing that happened to Ty, which I'm not educated enough to really have a real opinion on it, but from what I've heard from people who I do know are able to have an opinion on it because of their beliefs, tell me that was wrong. The whole situation with Mo, everything like that, just, yeah, it doesn't sit right with me. But I think that you need to separate certain things. When you see Robbie being abused by hundreds of fans at a ground, you need to take these things in isolation and condemn them, because it's very different. So it's just about not having an agenda, which is a really weird word to use sometimes. I think it's a word that gets overused at times, the word agenda, but you need to be able to separate certain issues and then build an opinion based upon different scenarios, which we try to do. If you just kind of paint everything with the same brush, you're not giving it a fair chance. So there you go. I hope that answers your question. I thought that's probably a bit of a long answer. Temi says, can you work with Curtis Shaw? I've done a show with Curtis over on, I think we did it on the same old Arsenal, actually, when Dan was doing the Friday shows. But yeah, me and Curtis are sound, I assume. So yeah, I will, if we're doing our Let's Talk Arsenal fan series, so I'll be more than happy to have Curtis on. Jasmine says, Tom Kaya on the Arsenal Lounge was solid indeed. In my opinion, he's already underrated journalist. Do you mean the Arsenal way, Jasmine? I think Arsenal Lounge, you got Mo, Shaheen and Lev, and myself for Monday shows. The Arsenal Way is our reach-based channel. But Kaya Kainak, who is the Arsenal reporter at football.london, yeah, he's brilliant and really nice guy. And it's been an absolute pleasure working with him. So yeah, absolutely. Go check Kaya out on Twitter at Kaya Kainak97. Memory. So yeah, go check out Kaya's stuff and all the team as well. Obviously, you've got some really good writers and presenters over there, so make sure you check it out. Yes, the Arsenal Way. It's easy to get these mixed. There's so many Arsenal channels out there. I'm not surprised. Okay, there you go. Thank you. I thought it did make sense, Funga Man. So there you go. I have problems with Mo Gambo says, I have problems only with Arteta, Edu, and the Cronkies. They are making bad decisions for the club, the players, and collateral for their mistakes. Magambo, I would love to have a conversation with you about Edu, because this is something that I think he gets painted with the same brush as the Cronkies sometimes. What has Edu done that you think outweighs all of the positives? And when I say the positives, I mean helping to bring in all of those 6 players we signed this summer, helping to get 25-odd million quid for Joe Willock, getting in Erdegaard and Matt Ryan in January and moving out the likes of Ozil, Mustafi, just getting them off the books and moving on that scenario, Socrates as well, bringing in Thomas Partey. Like, what is it that Edu has done that outweighs all of those good things? Because if the answer is he signed Willian, that's not enough. That doesn't outweigh all of those problems. So do let me know, because I really do get confused with the hate towards, or not the hate, but the criticism towards Edu, I think is so unbalanced. And all of the good that he's done really does outweigh the negative decisions. And there are negative decisions, but I think that the negative side is fully outweighed by the positive things that Edu has done. Praktika says, Ødegaard next to Partey with Saka, Emil Smith-Rowe and Pepe supporting Aubameyang. Discuss. That arguably could be our best formation. I think that Ødegaard, not next to Partey, but in front of Partey with Smith-Rowe in kind of the 4-3-3. And then Saka, Alba. And I would actually try Martinelli on the left. I'd try him and I'd bring Pepe on later in the game if it's not working right now. That's what I would do. And Mandeep says, do you see us breaking into the top 6 by Christmas? I mean, if you base off the last 4 league games, then yeah, because we won 3 of the last 4. We got 10 of 12 points. So you would say yes. But if you base it off 10 from 21 points, you would say probably not. So it depends on how Arsenal deal with the next couple of games against Palace and Villa. I think those 2 games against Palace and Villa will give us such a good kind of measure of where we are as a team right now and how Arteta's tactics are working, especially considering I think they're both home games. So we'll see how that works. Richard says, looking forward to seeing what he does next summer, if it's true what he says about bringing in experienced, world-class players, you should add. We'll be curious to see who we get. Absolutely. Ozzy, he did bring in Gabriel, but that was alongside Raul Sanyehi, so there's kind of a discrepancy about who you credit the most with those 2. So that's why I always do leave that one off ever so slightly. But he was still here. So he was still very much here when it happened. So you have to say that he was involved. And so surely does get some credit for it. Jasmine said Arteta is showing more trust in that first 11 on the pitch to turn things around when things aren't going well. That is, in my opinion, very important for team cohesiveness in the longer term. Jasmine, I slightly disagree. I don't have a problem with keeping faith in a starting 11 moving forwards. However, I do think that the game against Brighton highlighted that had he have actually reacted, changed the system, gone to a 3-4-3, taken off one player, brought on either Maitland-Niles or Cedric in a right wing-back position, I think maybe we could have done more. We could have achieved more. You could have even put Tomiyasu at right wing-back, brought on Tavares, moved Tierney into a left centre-back role and put Tavares at left wing-back. You had options. There was options that we had. So that's, for me, is an issue. It's the issue that the in-game side of things is along with the style being not consistent. They're the 2 key issues I have with Arteta at the moment. Raptor says, Tom, root cause is the Cronkies. Edu Arteta can't do much without sufficient funding. 5-year reports are out. City spent 1.09 billion. United 1.03 billion, Chelsea and Liverpool 800 million, Arsenal 250 million. However, what I would say, Raptors, is since the Cronkies were involved with the club in 2007, Arsenal have spent over $1 billion on transfers. So we can't always just look and say that Arsenal aren't spending. Arsenal are spending. We spent more this summer than any other summer on record. We need to show progress. We've got players. We've got a good team. We need to see that on the pitch. And Arteta has made mistakes and is still making mistakes, but there are still some really good things about him in his recruitment, in some of the things that we're seeing on the pitch. The defence in particular, how we combat the top 6 sides, especially away from home now. You would look at the Man City game as we had a man sent off and then it just went to what. So there are those issues, but it is some of the things you have to look at it in balance. You have to look at the positives and the negatives of it. I still am very much on the side of I think an Antonio Conte would be doing a much better job right now because he's just simply more experienced and a better coach. But in the long term, Arteta could prove to be the guy that turns this team back into an established top 4 side. It's just whether or not he can do that in the time that's available. And that seems to be very much running out at this stage. So there you go. Yes, that is over $1 billion in 15 years. It's still £1 billion spent on transfers and we've gone backwards. So you can't ignore it, Raptors. From 2007 to 2021, Arsenal have spent more than £1 billion on players, and they've gone from an established top 4 team to back-to-back 8th place finishes. It's not something to laugh at. That's terrible. That's awful. £1 billion on players, back-to-back 8th place finishes, out of Europe, regression, all of that, because we spent it poorly. Now, Arteta and Edu, in isolation, over the last 2 summer transfer windows, I've been much more impressed with the way we're recruiting. But now we're improving the recruitment. It's got to then show on the pitch. It's got to then improve on the pitch. And that's the big issue for us right now. If Arteta resigned tomorrow, which manager would suit us? Ten Hag works for young players, says IGK. I don't know enough about Ten Hag to say, yes, he's the right man. I do know plenty about Antonio Conte, and I would choose him, absolutely. Practica says the hatred directed at the Cronkies is weird and reflects a lot of ignorance in the part of the segment of the fan base. I don't want sugar daddy owners. I want fiscally responsible football. Well, Practica, I can tell you for a fact that the Cronkies have not shown responsibility with the club and the spending and the decision making. The Kroenkes are the number one problem with Arsenal Football Club by a long, long way. So I don't think it's ignorance on Arsenal fans' part towards the owners. The owners are absolutely at fault for Arsenal's regression, and under their tenure, Arsenal have gone from a top 4 team looking like they could go back to challenging for a title as they did towards the end of the 2000s to a side that are nowhere near that. So there's no ignorance towards the owners. They are the root cause of Arsenal's regression without a shadow of a doubt. Pavé Ferran says things done by Brendan Rodgers, David Moyes and Graham Potter is immense and effective. Even with the transfer budget and the quality that they had, they were able to outdo Arsenal. So who is at fault? It's a really good point. If you spend smartly and have good coaching and make good decisions on the pitch, you improve. You don't need to spend a net spend of a huge amount of money. You look at Leicester, you look at Liverpool, 2 self-sustaining teams that have won the title over the last, 5 years, and won the Champions League in the case of Liverpool as well, and the FA Cup in the form of Leicester too. So you can't just talk about spending because clubs on a self-sustaining model are achieving those big targets. It's as simple as that, really. I'm going to finish up the show there because I want to have breakfast before I start my shift. I hope you have a fantastic day. As I say, we've got some really good content coming out for you guys on the Arsenal Way and over here as well. We're going to be doing a Let's Talk Arsenal fan show tomorrow. I will tell you more about our guests in tomorrow's show. Probably in Friday's show, but it will be coming out tomorrow evening, fingers crossed. So I'm looking forward to that. Do make sure if you haven't already, drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. And welcome if you are indeed new. It's been an absolute pleasure. We will see if you've been listening on audio-only platforms as well. Thank you for listening. We will see you tomorrow morning. It's been an absolute pleasure. And as always, up the Arsenal.